with our next class. In today's class, we are going to discuss the mechanism of DNA replication. So let us start. See, the mechanism of DNA replication is a highly precise and enzyme-mediated process, and there may be so many enzymes associated with the process, but the main enzyme is DNA-dependent DNA polymerase. DNA-dependent DNA polymerase is called so because the enzyme is completely dependent on a DNA template for the synthesis of a new chain. Without the template, it cannot manufacture or it cannot make the new synthesis of DNA. That's why we call it DNA-dependent DNA polymerase. This enzyme is not only precise but also it has a rapid rate. It can synthesize a chain of DNA with 2000 base pair per second. Also, it possesses proofreading and exonuclease activity. Alright, so because of that, it becomes the main enzyme associated with the process. Alright, so now let us see how DNA replication would begin. So DNA replication begins with something that's called origin of replication. Alright, see, for the DNA to get synthesized or DNA replication to take place, the two strands, the parental strands of DNA, they have to uncoil or they have to unwind. Okay, so the unwinding of the DNA helix cannot be started randomly at any site in the DNA helix. Rather, there are fixed location or fixed sites where the DNA unwinding should begin. And those sites are called origin of replication. Do remember, origin of replication will be only one for the prokaryotic DNA, but there can be thousands of origin of replication in eukaryotic DNA. Okay, so first thing is to find the origin of replication, where the unwinding of the helix can begin. Alright. Second thing is the activation of nucleotides. The nucleotides, that is deoxyribonucleotide, adenosine monophosphate, cytidine monophosphate, thymidine monophosphate and guanosine monophosphate. These are the 4 nucleotides that will act as the raw material for DNA replication. Now these will remain randomly scattered in the nucleoplasm until the DNA replication process has to begin. Okay. Now that DNA replication process will start to initiate in the S phase of the cell cycle. So in the S phase of the cell cycle, these nucleotides, they have to be activated. Now how are they activated? By converting the monophosphates into triphosphate form. Now how is that done? See, all of these nucleotides plus phosphoric acid with the help of the enzyme phosphorylase will be converted to triphosphate state. Two phosphate groups will be added to the nucleotides to make them activated and to be participating in the process of DNA replication. Alright. Now, third thing is formation of a stable replication fork. Now, whenever DNA replication has to take place, the DNA helix has to unwind. Now, you know that the unwinding will occur in origin of replication, right? So the enzyme helicase will do this task. The enzyme helicase will start unwinding the DNA in the origin of replication. Now when the unwinding of the helix would begin, of course the DNA now will look like this. Okay, the two strands have started to unwind, have started to open up, right? And it is done by the enzyme helicase. Now because the DNA has been continuously a coiled up structure, a helical structure, these two strands which have been separated, they still have a tendency to get back together, so that they do not come back together, so that they do not get back together again. These two strands, they have to be stabilized, and that is done by SSBP, single strand binding protein. Okay, so that now the two strands cannot get back together. Alright. Also, whenever the two strands will be separated, okay, we have the DNA helix now look like a Y-shaped structure, isn't it? This Y-shaped structure is known as replication fork. Alright, understood this? So, helicase will unwind the DNA helix and SSBP will stabilize the separated strands, giving rise to a Y-shaped structure that's called replication fork. Alright. Now, due to the formation of replication fork, in the opposite end of the replication fork, due to unwinding of the helix, some kind of stress or tension would begin. This tension would create supercoiling in this portion of the DNA. That might make the DNA too much supercoiled, and further opening of the DNA helix might get hindered. So due to that, this stress, the stress that is created in the opposite end of the replication fork, is to be immediately released, and that is done by the enzyme topoisomerase. Alright, so by the help of helicase, SSBP and topoisomerase, a stable replication fork is developed. Alright, this being say 3' to 5' end, this being 5' to 3' end. Alright, now that stable replication fork has been developed, finally the DNA polymerase enzyme will start chain elongation. Okay, that means daughter strands will be started to get synthesized. But the problem is that there are DNA dependent DNA polymerase can only function in one polarity, that is 5' to 3' direction, and also it cannot initiate the chain synthesis. Alright, that means it cannot start the process of chain synthesis. If the chain synthesis process is started by something, then from the second step on maybe it will be able to elongate the chain, but it cannot initiate the synthesis. Alright, keeping in mind these two things, let us see finally how DNA replication would occur. Suppose this is the replication fork. Now, in the parental strand running from 3' to 5', the DNA strand that is to be synthesized, the daughter strand to be synthesized, will be in which direction? It will be in 5' to 3' direction, isn't it? Now, this is the polarity in which DNA polymerase can function, right? So, what will happen, you see? Because the DNA polymerase cannot initiate the process of chain elongation, that's why at first a RNA primer made by the enzyme primase will be set up at the first or start position. After the primer has been added, now chain elongation would begin, or it will be initiated by DNA polymerase as per base complementarity rule. So that means if in the parental chain or strand there is A, in the daughter strand there will be T. If there is a C, then G. Likewise, by base complementarity rule, the new chain elongation would begin. Alright. Do remember, all the nucleotides that will be brought as per base complementarity rule, they are in the triphosphate state, isn't it? As soon as a nucleotide in the triphosphate state is brought to be added to the chain, in that case immediately the triphosphate will be converted to monophosphate. Okay, the two phosphate groups will be cleaved from the nucleotide every time a new nucleotide is added to the chain. This breakdown of the phosphate groups will be done by the enzyme pyrophosphatase. Now the question is, if we had to bring the nucleotides from triphosphate to monophosphate state, why did we have to do it at the first place? That is because when these two high energy phosphate bonds will be cleaved, that would release energy, and this is the energy that will be required for chain elongation. Chain elongation process will require energy, and for that reason these two phosphate bonds have to be cleaved. Understood? So in that case, that's the reason why at first we had to convert all of these into the triphosphate state. So that again, when the triphosphate is converted back to monophosphate state, the energy released will be used for chain elongation. Understood this? Fine. So now continuously the chain elongation will keep happening in 5' to 3' direction, and this chain will be termed as leading strand. Okay, leading strand synthesis will be rapid and it will be occur in a continuous manner. Fine. Now, what will happen to this parental strand running from 5' to 3'? In this chain, the polarity of the daughter strand should be 3' to 5', and that DNA polymerase cannot do, right? So keeping in mind this, what will happen here, you see, this time the chain elongation will begin from the opposite end of the replication fork. That is, a primer will be added here. And then DNA polymerase will be now acting from 5' to 3' direction. Okay. So in that case, a primer will be added continuously and the chain synthesis will be occurring as such. Do remember, in this parental strand, the DNA, that is the chain elongation that would be happening, will be discontinuous in nature. Why? Because every time the helix, the double helix of the DNA, it will not open up all at once, isn't it? So as much DNA will open, only that much of the chain synthesis can be taking place. After that, the chain synthesis will stop. Every time the chain synthesis stops, it has to be initiated again by using a primer. So that's why continuously there will be short fragments of DNA formed with primers being added every time chain synthesis occurs. Fine. So these short fragments of DNA will be termed as Okazaki fragments. And this daughter strand that is being formed is called lagging strand. So this is leading strand, this is lagging strand. Later on, all the primers will be enzymatically removed and the Okazaki fragments will be enzymatically sealed or joined together. The main enzyme will be here, will be ligase. So using the enzyme ligase, all the Okazaki fragments will be joined together. That's how both the daughter strands will be formed. Understood? But even after this, DNA polymerase does have another very crucial function to perform. That is proofreading and exonuclease activity. So after the new chain has been synthesized, the DNA polymerase enzyme, it will run throughout the chain to search for mismatch base pairing. Okay? If a mismatch base pairing is detected, the incorrect base will be removed and a correct base will be positioned in that site. This is called proofreading and exonuclease activity, and that will help repair the DNA every time there will be certain kind of errors occurring in it. Okay? But do remember, even after this, a little bit of errors would still remain in the newly replicated DNA, and that will leave the space for us to evolve. If the entire process of DNA replication would have been completely accurate, then there would have been no place for us to evolve. So minute errors in the DNA in very less amount would allow variation and will leave the scope for evolution. Alright, so this is the entire mechanism of DNA replication. I hope all of you are clear about it. In the next class, we'll start with transcription.